Everything is easier, right?
Yeah.
I'm capable rather than struggling to get it done.
Welcome back to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. Today, we are joined by none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Andy Devlin. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hey, how are you?
Andy has been a client of KT's now for just over a year. That's correct, right?
Yep.
I believe we talked in February or March of last year.
Sounds right. Yep.
And Sean is actually pulling up Andy's before and after photos right now because Andy said that he hadn't looked at them yet. But the reason, we were starting this conversation talking about pulling these photos up because we recently looked at your progress photos, Andy, and we were like, all of us, me and Sean, were just like, my goodness, like look at the results that Andy got. But that's what you just said about your wife. Can you say that again right before we started? What you said about your wife?
You could say that again. That'd be great.
Yeah, I said, yeah, no, she pulled out a photo from I don't know when, and really my head was round. It was like a melon, and she's like, holy shit, look at you. It's like, it's not even the same person. And
Well, we're going to
that's
confirm
why
that here.
I don't go back and look at those photos, because I looked at that photo. I was like, gee,
Allow me to
put that away.
confirm that you are not seeming to be the same person anymore. I think it's going to allow me to share my screen here.
What an
Yeah, thank you.
absolute...
Thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, Andy. What a savage.
Look at this guy. I think this was the one your wife was saying, right? This is just so striking, man. When we saw, because we saw these after you did the 32 kg get up, and you know, the only Andy that I met was the one who we met in Chicago only a couple months ago. So at that point, you were looking pretty darn fit in Chicago. So I didn't know this first version of Andy who joined KT, but who is that guy?
Yeah, that's a kind of the person who said, you know, I'm not getting any success with what I am doing. I need to find something different.
Yeah.
And
So that's
impressive.
That's probably
really impressive.
A good place. Yeah, it's a good place to start this conversation too, Andy, is like, because what we would love to be able to talk to you about is talk to you kind of about your journey and about where you felt like you were. Because I think when guys listen to these client interviews, a lot of times guys will hear, you know, their story in the interview they listen to. So can you kind of just take us back to a little over a year ago and talk about where you were? Where were you there then physically? What were you looking for at the time that you found KT?
so, right, I had been working out at a gym or called a boot camp, right? It was a split place, and wound up leaving there because maybe I wasn't experiencing the game. I wasn't getting anything out of it, right? I reached my maximum. Things just weren't right, right? Something was wrong because of the nature of the great algorithm, and I enjoyed kettlebells anyway. You know, I got all these different ads as you look on different social media platforms, and had looked at a lot of them, and then found KT. The truth is that, you know, you look at that picture, which is, again, don't ever show that to me again. There was a lot of self-sabotage there. It wasn't that I wasn't participating in this boot camp program, but what I was doing is I'd come home at night and have ice cream, or on the weekend I'd have a couple of beers, and, you know, we go out to eat. And it wasn't you know, it's almost ridiculous to say it this way, but it wasn't like abusive or outrageous, but it was completely would kill any gains that I ever made anywhere along the way, obviously, right? There I was. And yeah, and that's how I got there. And then sort of the other thing which I've thought about was, or is, that the program I was a part of, there was no plan, right? You kind of would show up, you do a bunch of stuff, and which is okay, you know, if some people just like doing a bunch of stuff, getting hot and sweaty, and then going home. And I saw no, you know, and that's where I kind of got frustrated, right? There was no, we're going to start here, and you're going to wind up here. And after a while, that between that sort of not making real progress on the nutrition side and really not seeing any progress on the other side, yeah, that's when I made a decision, one, to leave that and find something else.
Andy, just so guys can put some like stats to, if they're just listening to this on the podcast, can you give some idea of like your age, where you started? If you remember, kind of like body stats, where you started and where you find yourself now?
Started, let's see, currently 64, so I guess started 63 maybe. Again, I don't really look at this. I know I made it somewhere around 55 pounds, around there, 50, 58 pounds down at this point. I pretty much stabilized on that. Slowly creeping down. I want to get into the high 150s, but I'm not as aggressive as I used to be, right? And chasing that target. I'm just kind of let that happen. Sort of, again, following the plan, sort of, and which has been good, following the nutrition plan. I just stick to that. And, between the workouts and that, kind of, you can see it slowly creeps down, which is fine, which is what I want, right? I think some of the opportunity for gains may have been hurt in the past only because I was, so aggressively losing weight.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. There we go. That's pretty much it.
You are 58 pounds down now. You've like
Yeah,
stabilized
but
at 58 pounds down.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
great.
What a
Pretty good, man.
savage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels good. You have 32-inch waistbands.
What were you
That's
when
so
you started? Do you
good.
remember?
Yeah, like where do you buy your pants? If you buy them in Walmart, you're a 36, but not really. You know what I mean? So no, I was probably easily 38, 40-inch waist.
That's really
Wow.
great.
What was your weight when you started, Andy? Do you remember?
I'm gonna say 220, give or take a few pounds.
Got it.
Yeah. 220, and now you said you're trying to get into the high 190s. Is that where you're?
Yeah,
Or,
so I'm
sorry,
fluctuating.
150s.
So I'm around 163 at this
Yeah.
point.
Nice. Yeah, I've got your starting weight chart. It looks like 211 was the highest that we had you at in March of 2024 was when we had you at 211, and then you got all the way down to 160s by like November, October. It looks like, so you've actually been maintaining your weight now since last October, really, it looks like.
Yeah, since about the Masters 1
That's
transition.
amazing, man. That's great. I mean, that just shows. And now you've obviously been getting a lot stronger because what brought about this conversation was seeing the picture of you holding the 32 kilogram overhead as you were hitting your PR with that bell, which, you know, for guys without context on a 32 kilogram, that might not sound all that crazy or anything, but knowing that you've lost 58 pounds at 64 years old and you're doing Turkish get-ups with a 32 kilogram, that's just kind of mind-blowing to me. I was very impressed. Kurt Chow is what I'd like to say to you.
Yeah, right. It really, and I think maybe there was a podcast, or I don't know if I think I saw it on YouTube actually, but you were talking about just consistency, and I think when you're, I don't want to keep going back to age because it makes me feel like in my head I'm still 17, right? But your body certainly argues otherwise from time to time. But for me, it took a lot longer, right? And that was originally probably maybe an early frustration when I was doing the KT bit. You see a lot of the members who like accelerate quickly and are able to accomplish a lot of lifts kind of early on, and that wasn't going to happen for me. And I had to learn that as we went along. The ego had to be supplanted by like form and ability, and my ability to become stronger is a longer path, more of a marathon, if you will. And when I finally figured that out, and that took a while, right? You had to grow up a little bit at my age. When I finally figured that out, that's when I kept on working the bells that I had, knowing that, at some point, I didn't know when it was going to be, but at some point I was going to get there. Like, I will tell you that before Chicago, or right around that time, was probably the first time that I call them like true triples or true doubles, right? Rather than kind of fakies where I had to come down and set the bell down, and recover for like 5 seconds and go up again. That was definitely around that time was, I said, okay, no, I'm just going to do a triple with this 20. And to my surprise, I did it, and without really a great deal of stress. Then I grabbed the 24 and I said, well, shit, I'm going to do a double with this. And I did it. And I was like, okay, on to the 28, man. And I really, really wanted to be in Chicago and do that 32. I said, I'm thinking, no, probably too soon. Yeah. So, you're right. A couple of weeks later, I think there was a week or so where all the work was with the 28, and I had then rebalanced my what I call moderate heavy and very heavy. I had said, okay, the 24 is now moderate, the 28 is now my heavy. And I kind of kept that 32 in that very heavy category. I'm looking forward in the plan or the program saying, all right, I don't have to deal with that for another 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I kept on working through it. And I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of, I really wanted it, but there was a lot of anxiety and anticipation that Monday when it rolled around, right? And because the week before I had a, air quotes, bad week, right? 2 weeks earlier than that, it was all 28 work and everything was great. It was like, oh my God, look at this. I can do anything. And then the next week rolled,
Why do I
right?
feel so weak?
Week, right. And next week rolled around and it was like, what happened to me?
That's the game, man. I love that.
It is. And it's, and again, but I'll say, I'm glad it happened then. Because one, it's happened to me several times over the last year. So now I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also really happy I was in Chicago, right? Because you got to meet some other members, and I had that discussion with a few people, or that dialogue was going on around me, and it makes you kind of like say, okay, so I'm not, and this isn't unique to
Yeah, it's
me,
a theme. Totally.
right? Other people experience this, so I didn't freak out, right? And that's why when that next Monday came around, I was like, okay, who knows? Let's try it. My right side is always stronger, so I was able to press up the right side real quick. My real weak spot is the roll. I don't know if that's common amongst people,
Yeah.
but
Especially with heavy.
that's my weak spot. And so I was able to do the right, and that worked out great. I put that up, and I thought, okay, on to my weak side, onto the goofy side. And I didn't share that video because the first time I went up, everything was wrong. My grip was, I knew everything was wrong. And I rolled up and I got it up on an elbow and it came down almost as quick again, and like I said, I sat there looking at it thinking, okay, well, maybe I don't video these, right? Maybe JP isn't going to get a copy of this one.
It sounds like me setting up for a golf shot. I know everything is wrong.
Yeah.
Everything's wrong here. Nothing's right is going to happen here.
And then I prove it.
But I'm going to do it anyway.
So it's interesting, Andy.
So wait, did you hit it on the left? Just to clarify.
I did. Then I set it down and I took a couple of breaths and repositioned my hand. And that's the video you see. And that was the next lift on the left side.
Amazing.
We got that.
Amazing.
That's when I put it down and I said, I don't own you yet. You're going to sit back over there for a little while.
Yeah. Go in the corner. I'm going to work with your friends, your smaller friends, for just a little while.
Yeah,
that's great, man.
That's the badass photo. I think the photo we have is your left side, doing your get up on your left for the 32. And hopefully,
that's after it came down on my sternum. Yeah.
Oh, I've done that before. That does not feel good. It'll wake you up quickly. That's great.
So it's interesting. Go ahead, Seamus.
Well, I was just going to say, I remember when I first got into kettlebells, to me, the 32 kilogram was the first time in my life where I felt strong. Like, I feel strong. Like, it took me time to build up to this. I feel successful in weightlifting. And so to see now, to have you go through that long journey and to talk about how you had to kind of set your ego aside, and you've had to learn over the course of a year that it's totally normal to go through these cycles of feeling really good and then all of a sudden feeling like, oh my God, what's happened to me? Why do I feel, weak all of a sudden? But just like for you to put in all the time and effort and to go through such a massive body transformation, and still a year after that, now being excited about, hitting these PRs, it's just great, man. I don't really have anything productive to say other than just that I freaking love that, man. It's like, so thank you for, I don't know, being that guy who was willing to check your ego a year ago, and believe in yourself. It's just awesome.
Yeah, you have to, like I said, you get so old, you have to learn that eventually.
Yeah, well, it's great, man. Not everyone does it. I mean, I think a lot of guys in your situation going through similar experiences, that's the thing that makes it so that they never succeed, because they see other guys in the program going so fast and they think, I'm too old for that, or, oh, I can't go that fast. And so they use that as the thing that, oh, well, it's not going to work for me, or I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel that way. And it's like, well, but that's It's part of the journey, man. Like that's just where you are. And if you can just set that
Right.
aside and put in the time, over time, you will get strong. And by the way, your most important thing a year ago wasn't to go really fast in your weight progression. It was to get the 60 pounds of extra weight that you were carrying that was holding you back off your frame. That was the
Right.
progression for you at first. And that puts you in a position now where you can really focus on getting stronger without having to worry about being so strict with your nutrition. You just,
Yeah.
in reality, you did things the right way. And now I would guess, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I would guess your transformation from a body composition standpoint, from a habit standpoint, probably feels pretty locked in at this point, right? I mean, would you say that that's
Yeah, no, everything is normalized, right?
yeah,
There's no diet, right? Everything's kind of normalized, right? It's part of your routine. Everything is flows. Yeah, no, I got my
yeah,
wife not involved, but now she eats like me. That was a huge, that was a huge
huge
plus.
win. Love
Yeah,
that,
Yeah.
that
man.
was huge.
And so, I mean, so many guys, what happens when they try to go really fast with the weight progression and their body isn't responding the right way, they'll get hurt. And then
Mm-hmm.
getting hurt throws them off. And it's like, well, if you get hurt, there's no way you're going to see the results you want to see. There's no way you're going to be able to lose the weight you want to lose because you got hurt. And so you can't train. And that throws guys off. When it's like, if you would have just slowed down and checked your ego and focused on
Yeah.
form and technique, like you talked about.
Well, I mean, the reality is early on that happened to me, right? I was too aggressive with swings
Mm,
and, coming out of the previous environment thinking, I know how to do a kettlebell swing. No, you don't.
yeah.
And I don't know which muscle group I did, but I was catching the bell with my back, right? That was
Yeah.
the fault. So whether it was, a sciatic nerve or the psoas or something, right? My whole left side. And so I had to sit back and let that relax and then get back into it. And then I came down with the weights and at that point, kept up low. I kept low weights. I knew that I had to figure out this two-hand swing thing. And really, I did not figure it out until maybe the bridge or the beginning of the first Masters when I was doing two-hand swings and all of a sudden it just felt right.
Mm.
Right. And you're like, oh shit, is that what it's supposed to feel like? Like I'm
Man.
not supposed to hurt myself doing this? And from that point on, my weights on just that have gone up. My very heavy now is the 88-pound bell. And that's
Savage. You savage.
well, I mean, but it's true, right? You got so much of this is form, right? So much of this is form related, and you can accomplish more and you don't, it's clear when you feel it or you get it
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
that it feels right. Now you can change. Now, and that's what was my experience. And I'm not really terribly athletic per se, so like there's some people who can pick up a golf club and instantly drive a ball and do that their whole life. It takes me a long time to figure something out. But that's all right, Again, I figured it out and now I just got to work on snatches.
Yeah. Now the game starts over again because you have to
Yeah.
snatch.
Go through the same process with snatches. And I think it's also one of the coolest parts. The reason we think it's so cool. I mean, you said you feel 17. We bring up your age of 64. I mean, being 64 and doing 32 kg get ups, like that is incredible. Like that is absolutely savage. That's like life changing strength. And the guys listen to this who are, in their 50s, in their 60s, some of them just have no idea what that means. And like us talking about these heavy weights and doing these exercises, sometimes guys will listen to this and they'll just have no context whatsoever. And I think both Sean and I find it so incredible that we both assume that when you came to KT initially, you weren't like, I want to hit a 32 kg get up PR. You probably weren't thinking that, right?
Well, no, and that was part of your sales pitch, right? You're going to get stronger. You're going to do this. You're going to hit a 32. And you first think, and you hear that and you go, okay, that sounds great. And then you get into it and you're like, yeah, no way.
Not a chance.
Guy was bullshitting me.
So how was that evolution for you though? Because I feel like all of our guys go through their own individual evolution of like wanting to lose weight, having specific goals around that, around body comp change. But then over time, they kind of get addicted to this idea of training with kettlebells and improving their technique and getting stronger. So like for a guy, say a guy is in his 50s, 60s and comes up and he asks you, what the hell was that like for you? What would you even tell that guy?
Well, that's a good question. I guess all I could say it was a lot of work. I wouldn't tell you that it was, I don't want to say it wasn't. It was, what was it like? Well, I don't know how to answer that. So I was already, that's a good question. Just time, I suppose. It's a lot of time in the process. I enjoy doing it, if that doesn't sound weird to some people. And you mentioned several, a lot of times you'll say you just don't feel like working out. And I get that, you get that all the time, or I get that personally. And but that doesn't mean that I don't want to, because I always feel great when you're done. And the flip side is when you're done, you're like, yeah, woo, and we're going on to something else. So, I guess it's if you're motivated, right, and you want to put the time in, you should do it. Again, I don't know, I don't know if I'm answering it well.
I've loved this answer so far.
Okay, kettlebells are right for me, right? I was never the bodybuilder type, so to speak, but they've given me that ability to naturally get stronger, I suppose. And then, as you say, sort of stay fit. And again, at my age, it's been great for a lot of different perspectives. Yeah, it's hard to answer that because everyone's motivation is different, I suppose.
Yeah.
But what I heard though is hard. It took time. I'm not going to say it wasn't hard, right? And it was just an honest, like, that's kind of what the process is like, right? It's like, it's time. I was motivated, but I wasn't always motivated. I didn't always want to do it, but I just chose to keep doing it. You touched on the ego earlier and how you kind of had to pull back. You got hurt during the journey. You just had a real honest, just like, I just decided that this is what I was going to do. And because I made that decision, then I was willing to go through all of these different hurdles that had to be overcome, and you're still overcoming them. You just talked about dropping a 70-pound kettlebell on your sternum last week. So it's not like your journey isn't done at this point. You're still putting your life on the line down there in Florida. But I don't know. I feel like I would have answered that question the same way you did, which is like, it's just time and it's effort and it's showing up, man.
And like I said, I enjoy it. It sounds weird, maybe to some people, but I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I enjoy 240 snatches. We got to talk about that part of the program.
Oh, you're not.
I enjoy it, yeah. I enjoy the feeling and the capability it gives me. That doesn't mean I'm going to enjoy every single workout.
Yeah.
For clarity.
We'll go back to what you said about the joy of being done. You always feel good when you're done.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah, no, I do. I have this little. I have an app called Intervals, right? And so I have a 12 cycle EMOM, and when I have to hit it the second time, I say to myself, "Okay, there's only 12."
Yeah. Oh, we play those games. Left. You learn to play these mental games with yourself in the
all the time.
That's so fun. Anytime someone's like, "How do you do your workouts?" I'm like, well, honestly, it's usually just every single day I'll figure out what game I'm going to play with myself to get all my reps in. It's like, because you realize that you do the same stuff a lot, but it's not about needing to do different things. It's just about needing to have just that tiny little tweak and knowing what you now know, which is it's not always going to be fun. I'm not always going to feel super motivated to do it, but I'm always going to feel really good when I get it done. I'm always going to feel accomplished. I'm going to feel energized. Absolutely. I'm going to know that I am taking care of myself. And you can't know that until you've done it long enough to just know that, like, that, you no longer need motivation. That's you're not fooling yourself into thinking that you're always going to be motivated. But you've learned over time that if you continue to show up, you will continue to reap the rewards. And it's better than, I'd rather
break it into pieces, right? That's what I probably stretch more than other people, but stretch is a piece, the warm up, whatever it might be, whether it's deadlifts or rows or whatever it might be. Break it. That's what I do. I'll get that done. Always kind of give yourself, or I give myself the opportunity to, I don't want to say it that way, give yourself the grace to fail, but I never actually take it. I get that done. Okay, I'll now do the next piece, right? And I got that done. I said, now I'll do the get-ups, and
that's hilarious.
Right.
Yeah. We're the same. That's exactly how I train too. Like, all right, I'll cut it off after 50 if I feel like I've done enough. And then I'm like, oh, fuck it, I can do 50 more. Like,
right, I made it this far. I can do it.
Oh yeah, that's how I train. That is how I train. I love that.
And also, Andy, you said at the beginning what you were looking for something different because what you weren't seeing like the long term, like progressing in whatever you were doing prior to KT. And obviously you've kind of latched on to the programming philosophy that we do here, because you've obviously shown that you can progress quite a bit. Because what were the bells that you started with? Do you remember?
Yeah, I had one 16K bell and a 20-pound dumbbell.
Amazing.
So yeah, and yeah, right. So now like I have a pretty good set of bells, right? I promised my wife I wouldn't buy any more. Or
Just
at
one
least
more,
known that
sweetie. I need the
just one.
106. What's the
Really,
heaviest you
I
have?
need double
Is the
50s. How
40?
can they possibly do double swings with the 24 if I don't have another 24? That makes no sense, right?
Exactly.
So fortunately, I'm not there yet.
Hmm. Did you know Turkish get-ups before you joined KT, or was that brand new?
No, other than what, like I said, I as a result of watching things on, maybe YouTube or social media, that is the only place I ever saw a Turkish getup. Uh, yeah, so when I started here, yeah, it was as you said, you talk to Grant in the beginning, you think, yeah, I can do this. Then you do like your first one or two, and you're like, what the hell is this?
Great, man.
32, 70 pounds over my head like this?
Yeah. But I'll
I
say
don't think
this. I
so.
remember watching you in Chicago and remarking to Coach Rich and
Mm.
saying, I think Andy has some of the best technique out of any guy here at the, and I'm not just saying that because we're on a call together right now. I truly meant
Agreed.
that. And that was trained. And most of the guys who were there were probably 10, 15, 20 years younger than you. Again, not to bring age into it, but just in general, like for somebody who came to us with, you said bells were hurting you at the beginning, you'd never done Turkish get ups. And I'm watching you like Andy's swing and hinge and get up are dialed in. Like you were,
Mm-hmm.
to me, what I could tell was that you put a lot of thought into moving just
Yeah,
right, which is so
that
important.
that's true, right? And I say that not to, I don't want to sound like I don't want to get too much ego here, but I probably overthink everything. And honestly, watching the videos, the KT videos, do it almost pathologically, right? What am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
I'm thinking through the movement. Even JP, so the last get up, even that one, he's like, if you make these two corrections here, you're probably going to feel a lot better. And yeah, the last couple of weeks I've been doing that, and it found, yeah, I feel a lot better on one side. The other side, I realized my hips aren't open at all.
Mm,
But yeah,
still
no,
learning.
yeah, right, no, and it felt good. Right now, instead of, I think I was collapsing quickly to my arm, and coming down instead of sort of sitting back on my
Right.
right,
Mm.
and just setting my arm down. So yeah, and that's what I'm working on now, right?
Love that, man.
With the 28, just sitting down, sitting there for a second, and then putting my arm down. So yeah, that was hairy with the big one because I had to come down quick.
Yeah.
I was like,
That was
oh
by
crap.
necessity that I went down
So
that fast. Thanks,
that
JP.
was by necessity.
Thanks for noticing.
Andy, the fact that you're saying I'm just my working bell is my 60-pound bell, that's just great. That's fantastic. Andy, do you notice anything in like your everyday life now that's just easier for you with where you find yourself from a health and fitness perspective now versus over a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound glib, but the answer is yeah, everything. You cut the grass here in Florida. Previously, that was a chore. Well, it's always a chore, right? But, you defy anybody to go out there and push that thing around for 90 degrees.
Seriously.
But the other day, I just kind of sail through it now. It's kind of a meaningless sweat. It's another 3,000 steps, man.
Yeah, buddy.
So yeah, no, and truthfully, like I said, I don't want to. It sounds silly to say it that way, but yeah, no, everything. The answer is everything from picking up a grandkid, right, to cutting the grass to you name it. Everything is easier, right?
Yeah.
I'm capable rather than struggling to get it done.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about like moment to moment quality of life. When we had Mark Ambrose on the podcast, he talked about something as simple as being able to run out in the rain to go get the mail out of his mailbox and then run back.
Mm.
That's what he talked about, was something that was such a simple task in life that was so much easier for him that he was fit.
Yeah, I don't use the R word very much. So
Rain.
no, run, run, run.
Right. Yeah. Neither do we.
Yeah. I thought you meant rain. You're talking
No, it
run. No,
rains.
no,
It rains here a lot.
I don't
I live with
run.
the rain.
I don't run. Thank you. I send my alligator out to get my mail when it's rainy.
Exactly.
Well, I have a question, which Grant, I'm sure you were going to get to this, but
Yeah.
I recall, Andy, when you first signed up for Kettlebell Transformation, this is a story that Grant likes to tell. And I think this is a really cool one because a lot of guys start and they're maybe not totally convinced that it's going to be the right thing for them. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe when you started, you kind of did like an initial, like, okay, I'm just going to kind of dip my toes in the water for 30 days. And
Yeah.
then you said, after 30 days, I'm all in, and you went all in on the 4 months. And now you've been with us for another year after that. So can you just take me through that mindset at the beginning of like where you were when you decided to say yes to KT, even though you were kind of like just dipping your toes in? And then what happened during that first period which made you then fully buy in?
Yeah. So, we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but to expand on it again. Yeah, right. So I already said I was looking for something else. Probably generically would never think of signing up for something via Instagram. And that's probably an age thing, right? So, different age groups think differently. And so signing, agreeing to do this, I was hesitant. I didn't want to get locked into something that wasn't right for me, right? I didn't want to say, okay, well, this was just the thing, right? It looked good online, and yeah, it isn't. And so that was the hesitance, right? I really needed to be certain that this was the right thing. And again, I touched on that already, probably within that, whatever that 4 weeks was. And it was really important to me. The number one thing which I originally was looking for was the nutrition piece, maybe not the exercise piece. And again, knowing that that's really where my big failure was. And right away, I could see between, kind of getting rid of the crap in the house and changing the way I was looking. I don't even remember now what you call that first group of stuff, just eat this, I think is the only
Yeah.
thing that I remember.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, focusing on that and pretty quickly seeing results, maybe not major results, but results. Right. And then when you finally get into the plan, right, and you guys put out the spreadsheet and you kind of walk through the progression. And like I said, you start here, you're going to be here. That all made sense to me, right? That's the kind of logic I was looking for in a program that I knew I could succeed at eventually or somehow, right? Because no matter what happened along the way, I had a starting point, I had a progression, and I was going to get to the end of something. Like I said, some people like that boot camp experience, going in there, flopping around, throwing in, and not really having a goal, right? There's no goal in that experience. When you laid out the goal, yeah, that's when I said, yeah, no, this is going to work, right? I have a nutrition process that works. I have a goal that's set up that's going to work, or I believe it would work, right? It made sense, made perfect sense, and so yeah, that's when I said, yeah, no, this feels right.
Hmm. That's
No,
great.
it's funny, Andy. We have a lot of guys who we talk to who we even give that opportunity to, because I remember the conversation we had where like you even just put down a small down payment to get started for your first 30 days. And I remember having the conversation and I was just like, listen, give it your best effort for the first 30 days. And if it's not the right fit, if it's not the right solution, then it's no harm, no foul. Like we could part as friends. But luckily it ended up, I think you were like down 10, 11, 12 pounds in your first 30 days. Like you were
Yeah, something like that.
dominating.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just looking. That's exactly right. 10 pounds in the first
Yeah.
30 days, 20 pounds in the first 60 days. So that's
Right.
doing work, man.
Yeah. And it's just funny. We talk to so many guys who have similar goals as that, and they're maybe even looking for something similar in terms of what you were looking for, but they just don't. They hesitate at being able to make that commitment, even if it's for the first 30 days, no risk to come in and see if it's the right solution. So I'm not sure what my question is. It's just more so like, do you feel like you were just ready to find a solution that was going to work for you? Or what do you think got you over that hump to be able to make the decision, be like, all right, I'm going to do the work for the first 30 days?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I was ready to find a solution for sure, right? As I mentioned, I came from a different environment, probably had left that, but there was probably a 4 or 6 week gap. It didn't feel right. There was still part of a habit or a routine where, I got off of work, you drive to the gym, you do your thing, drive back. That was missing, obviously. And no, I was definitely ready to do something. So I knew something had to be done.
Well, you nailed it.
Man,
Yeah. Right. Sure.
truly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just great, man. I look at your weight chart and I look at your progress with bells and the journey. It's amazing, man. It's been a
Well, I enjoy.
pleasure
I
to
mean,
watch.
and I enjoyed kettlebells. I think as I said, we probably Googled them and other things. I had access to two during COVID, right? A K and maybe a 12, probably a 12K in a scene, right? And everything I did during that sort of shutdown period where everyone was not being able to go to the gym, I did with a 12K or a 16K. All wrong, mind you. I can now look back at my former self and say, I'm surprised you didn't kill yourself then. But I enjoyed him, right? And so I knew something, whatever I was going to do, was definitely going to have kettlebell in it, right? Again, it made sense. They make sense to me. It sounds weird to say that, but they make sense to me. Uh,
Cool. Well, you're talking to a couple
100%.
kettlebell guys, so it doesn't sound weird.
yeah, you guys
Yeah.
get it. Other people look at me and they're like,
Yeah.
"What is that thing?"
Yeah. Don't they hurt
Like,
your back?
don't
You
they?
know?
Yeah, right. Don't they?
Yeah.
Are you
Not when
gonna?
you learn how to do it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I shared a picture online. We were in Virginia last week and I could only bring two small bells, like the 54 and the 20. And, we shared an Airbnb with other members of the family. And my sister-in-law was looking at me like, what are you doing? And here I'm on the deck, looking at the Atlantic Ocean, listening to the waves, watching everybody. I'm just working
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Don't mind me. Swinging
Ignore
bells.
me, right?
Yeah.
Ignore me,
Yeah.
It's great, man.
right?
What do the people
And
around you think about the physical transformation you made in the last year?
Yeah, no, everyone who knew me, when if they haven't seen me in a while, yeah, right. There's, what happened to you?
Kettlebells.
Yeah, then you're right. Sometimes I don't even say that because boy, I could go on, and I could be the most boring guy in the room.
Yeah.
But yeah, my boss hates me because now his wife, like beats him up constantly. All right, you look at Andy, look at Andy, look at Andy.
Tell your boss you know a couple of guys who can teach them the
that's
way,
right.
you know.
Yeah, right. And then there's yeah, right. Another guy I work with, who I've worked with for a long time in different. So he's literally just starting. He was always a barbell, a gym rat, so to speak. And when I first told him I was doing, he like poo-pooed the whole thing, right? You don't want to do that. I said, dude, yeah, don't worry about it. It's my thing. You do your thing. And so literally it was today, and he's looking at me and he going, so I tried to do this Turkish get-up thing. I said, oh really? That's
Really?
great.
Really?
So
How did it
he's
go
like,
for you?
right, right. So yeah, no, so he keeps asking me questions like somehow I'm an expert, and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm like a rookie, man.
Well, you're above rookie status now. You're a second year
Yeah.
player at this
You're no
point.
I
longer
said
a
beginner.
rookie.
We've gone from
Yeah.
rookie to beginner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're through the
Sure.
novice stages of things. That's
Exactly.
great, man. Influencing
Yeah.
people around you, even if subtly, right? Even if just
Yeah.
by setting the example. That's pretty cool.
It also is it can be almost indescribable sometimes. Before when you were trying to explain this process, you were like, yeah, that's a good question. It's kind of hard to put words to. But it's also kind of the thought process of you being out on the deck, you got your kettlebells, you're looking at the ocean, you're just like, it's just almost like this tranquil peace for you. It's funny, I just heard a clip from Scotty Scheffler, who won the PGA, and he was like, dude, the thing I love to do the most is just practice. I love to just get out and hit balls. He's like, that's the most fun thing in the world for me to do.
Mm.
And it's the same for, I think, kettlebell guys. When they get into this, they get into like, they actually just enjoy the workouts. Like they don't always feel motivated. They don't always feel, like hyped up to do it, but you just enjoy the actual practice of doing it. It just becomes kind of indescribable to people who don't do that. They're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, all right, you can like stand around and do nothing and just look out the patio or get a workout in and stand there and look out the patio.
Yeah, right.
Right.
That's good stuff,
So,
man.
yeah, it was good.
Well, congrats on all your success, Andy.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, man.
What are your goals now? You look at the next 6 to 12 months. Where do you want to take this thing?
So yeah, my goals, like, yeah, right. So I truly, my first goal is to get the triple on the 28, right? So I'm still kind of in the fakie range. I can do a double on my right, not so much on my left. Um, so triple on both sides there. And then, while I get so while I was at I mentioned I was on vacation, I could only have the so right now I'm working with the 16 on the snatch, and I'm in a double sort of weird spot. One, it's too light. Two, I stink at snatches, and so I'm not anxious to go up in weight too quickly until I can sort of master that 16. But oddly enough, while we were on vacation, all I had was the 20. So I said, okay, I'm going to do snatches with this 20. We'll see how this works. Yeah, probably got half the workout in because that little jump was massive for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, instead of 200 or 100 and something, I probably got 50 or 70 in with that, and I was like, okay, we're done.
That's pretty
I'm
good though.
cooked.
Didn't it feel better? Did it feel like almost a little bit technique wise better with the heavier weight? Did you notice that at all?
Mm-hmm.
I did, yeah, because and again, this is yes because the believe it that which I'm sure you guys can appreciate with the 16 it goes up too quick, and when I try to drive my hand in, it's already past the point that I want it to be. And yeah, right. So now that 20 is obviously not going up as high as fast, and so it's right there, and I can get my hand in it, and not quite perfect there yet. I mean, because when I miss on that one and it comes around and hits your wrist, you go, yeah, that sucked.
Yeah, yeah, you
That
Mm-hmm.
know,
wasn't a good
yeah,
lift.
right. The snatch
Yeah.
exposes improper technique a lot more than a
Yeah,
swing does.
yeah, a lot quickly. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
But that's kind of where I am. So those are like the next that's my short term meaning, next whatever, 10 weeks, 16 weeks goal
Love that.
is to own those, right?
amazing.
Get the 32 up consistently, right? Even if it's one lift aside, just be consistent with that.
Are you doing triples with the
Love that.
24? Can you do triple 24
Yeah,
get ups? Yeah,
yeah, right. I did that a couple of weeks ago was the first
solid.
so I can do a triple with my right side easily. I'll say on a good day, I did a triple with my left.
Yeah, yeah,
I can do the double with my left easily,
solid.
and
That's great.
then it depends how I come down, right?
Whether you get that, yeah. Oh, I know. The multi reps need a good elbow to back in order
Mm-hmm.
to get through them.
Right, and that's been a recent sort of find as well. I no longer collapse. I can roll and manage and
Yeah,
keep the bell up. Uh, on the third time on the 24 on the left side, that's getting a little sketchy.
yeah, yeah. Well, believe it or not, your unlock for the 32 kg is owning triples with the 24 as opposed to triples with the 28. So like if I could tell you anything, it would be aim for making triple 24s. And honestly, I think double 28s probably have the biggest payoff for you. It's like double getting really comfortable and confident with the double 28s. But when it comes to triples, you're almost better with the 24 than you are with the 28, because it'll just continue to solidify that strength and endurance on that third rep in a way that's not like pushing it so close to the razor thin edge that you're going to get to with the 28.
Mm-hmm.
So those are, I've always found that in order for me to go up to the next bell, once I've hit it once, but I know I'm not quite ready for it, it's like go back 2 bells and own triples there. Back 1 bell, own doubles there, and get a lot of reps, like
Mm-hmm.
10 to
Yeah, and that's what
12.
I'm doing. Yeah,
Yeah, and you'll own it.
because even the program now has the very heavy in it, which again would be the 32. And no disrespect, guys, I'm not using it.
Yeah, right.
That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm doing the 28s and the
that's
24.
good. Yeah, that's what you should do. Honestly, I mean, you don't want to go up to a bell and put it in just because the workout says it. If you're not ready for it, that's the fastest way to get hurt. And it's like you better off just going down a bell. Sometimes you need to use the same bell for your heavy and your very heavy, and that's totally fine. It's
Mm-hmm.
like the progression will still work because you'll be getting so many multi reps in with that heavier bell, which is
Yeah, and that's what I'm doing. Yeah, for sure.
love it, man.
Yeah. Good stuff. Sean, do you want to ask the rapid fire questions to Andy
I certainly
as
do.
we wrap up?
Just a couple, Andy. Favorite kettlebell exercise?
Cleans.
Ooh.
I can do a whole bunch in a row. How's that? I mean,
Yeah.
when you finally sort of unlock that one, I can, cleans.
Andy's like, gets my biceps going.
Because I guess it was like such a no, but it's really a timing thing. It's not
Yeah.
even, and that's kind of what I find. There isn't a lot of workout, so to speak, with those muscles.
Yeah.
But once the timing is there, yeah, and actually, you've said this in other podcasts, right? You kind of look badass, and you realize I'm not really doing all that much work, but
Yes.
I got this thing moving.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the truth. Yeah, and the clean is such a skill exercise where, like, once you get it right, the same amount of weight feels so much easier than the weight felt before you were doing it right. And that's a very good feeling. Good, solid, clean reps feel great. You're just like, ooh, that was so smooth.
I would agree wholeheartedly.
Favorite kettlebell weight to use at the moment?
24.
What a solid bell. It's a standard bell for a reason. Grant, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so I don't actually remember what I think there were one or two other rapid fires.
Well, I think we have the last one, and this will be a good one to wrap up with, because I know we got to wrap up here at the top of the hour. But
yeah,
if someone came to you, Andy, and was considering KT, but they were nervous, they were skeptical, what do you think you would tell that guy?
Don't worry about it. I mean, really, if you knew me and you look at what I've been able to accomplish, it's an obvious answer.
Man, that's
Amen.
so good.
Amen.
That is so good.
Are you a big fan of Cars and of Lightning McQueen? Fanboy question for
That's more of a grandchild thing. I think I'd probably seen it 300 times.
Yeah, I thought. I was wondering where it came from, and then when you mentioned on this that you picked up your grandkids, I'm like, oh, now I know why he's got the Cars reference, because he's got grandkids.
Yeah, I had to say something to make myself feel like, yeah, wow. And so the first thing that came to my head was the thing that's been like just drilled in there through cranking.
That's so good, man.
Yeah.
Well, great stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Both Sean and I are so appreciative of you, Andy. Number one, for taking the time to come out and do this podcast, but number two, for just the work that you've put in over the last year, man. It is so incredibly inspiring. I hope you realize that.
I appreciate that. I got 6 weeks left, and what's next?
Yeah,
that's right.
We'll show you. There's a whole Mastery 2 is next, my friend.
I'm Mastery 2 right now. There's something else after this.
Oh, yeah. We got it. We're ready, man.
He's going to the Ninja Crash Course.
Let's go, baby.
You have to tell me what that is.
Yep.
Have Grant sell that one, because then I'll say, oh, come on.
Goes in, and then you show me that it actually works, and then we'll see. Well, thank you again, Andy. Appreciate you, man.
All right, sir. Thank you very much.
Truly.
Right,
thank you, Andy.
Have a good day.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Let's go. See you, everybody.